All right, hey, ministry leaders, an exciting special guest for you today as we are back once again with Christian music icon, singer songwriter, and recording artist Steven Curtis Chapman for a little follow up, we'll call it.
Yeah, sounds good.
Stephen, my man, how is
What's
it
up?
going today? Thanks for
Hey,
stopping by.
oh man, it's great to be with you again, Josh, and all of you all. Thank you for letting me take a few minutes to catch up with you. Lots going
Yeah,
on, lots of
man.
good things happening, and so yeah. But it's I'm doing great. It's good to see you again.
Oh, so many good things. All right, so Carl had you on a little while back, and our ministry, Church Visuals, is actually based in Lexington, South Carolina,
Yeah,
and we had kind of chatted about this a little bit. And I understand you're going to be making a tour stop there on November the 8th
yeah,
for your An Evening with Stephen Curtis
yes,
Chapman concert night. So, for our listeners who may not know, or fans who maybe haven't seen you live before, what is
yeah,
sort of unique about that particular night, maybe in comparison to some of your other performances? Like, what can we expect?
yeah. Well, boy, so. Uh, some of you will know this, but I've been doing this for a little while now. Actually, my first album came out in 1987, so that's how far back we're talking. Like
Oh, the year after I was born.
before. See, thank you for that. Appreciate that very, very
You are
much.
so
Yeah,
welcome.
yeah, yeah. It's very kind of you to point that out. Now, to be fair,
Love it.
I was only 10, so I was very young. It was a children's
There you go.
album. Not true, but I've been doing this for a while. I mean, we're 87. We're talking like we had just gotten electricity. So it was an exciting time in the world. And just discovered fire. I mean, it was really, really, there were a lot
Oh
of cool
yeah,
things happening and
that's awesome.
figured out how to scratch out an album, with a rock. But, no, and my first album was an album, a vinyl disc, and not because it was a cool thing that you did, a retro sort of vintage thing. It was like, that's how you listen to music and that in cassette tape. So, um, and I've done a lot of touring over those years, and toured with, you know, and so many of the tours for many years. There was the Great Adventure Tour, there was the Speechless Tour, there was the More to This Life Tour, there was the For the Sake of the Call Tour, there was the Heaven and the Real World Tour. These were all tours based around an album title and a theme of that album, which is, part of what my music, the years of, the arc of my music, you can almost follow my faith journey, what God was showing me, the books I was reading, the place I was in my journey with, my family, my wife and I, what our pastor is teaching, Scotty Smith, my dear friend and pastor for many years.
Mm,
You can almost trace, the footsteps, through all of that. My
sure.
family, my kids, where they are, what's going on with our lives. Um, and, and so, to be now at this place in my journey and my music, one of the things that is just the most special, cool thing is when people say, man, your music has been like a soundtrack to my faith journey, to my family, to my life. I mean,
Absolutely.
we saddled up our
Mm,
horses, man,
mm,
and went on, summer, junior high camp, that was our theme song.
mm,
Or our
mm.
family, went on the mission trip, and that was our theme song. For the Sake of the Call. I'm sitting in a jungle, uh, uh, little cabin with a guy who flies for Mission Aviation Fellowship, who has a brace on because he's broken his back and, another plane crash. And he's sitting there with his family saying, man, we came to the jungles of Ecuador with the song For the Sake of the Call. This was our
Wow.
calling to come,
Mm,
and of course I'm just, tears, streaming because I'm thinking, man, this is how God has allowed these songs to connect and impact people's lives. And that's so humbling, and it just always blows me away. And, so I have all these stories and all these songs over the years, representative of different eras and the way of different seasons of my journey. And so this evening with is really, an opportunity for me to kind of bring as many of those together as I can.
yep.
I have to do sometimes shortened versions of the songs, even because if I play the entire version of every song, I get about 12 songs and tell stories, because I love to tell the stories of where the songs have either come from, or even where these songs have taken me and us together. That I run out of time. So, I try to cram as much music and put songs together and create some little, moments and medleys and tell my story and our story in a way. I feel like it's more than just, this isn't my story. This is kind of our shared story of what these songs, and really more importantly what the message of these songs have, how they've connected our lives. And so in a lot of ways I feel like I will say a lot of times in concert, this is a night of remembering. Music has this power of transporting us back in time. But what I love about my music is not only when I start singing Dive, I see everybody out there doing their hand motions, and they're going back to Vacation Bible School, and
Right.
diving in. But what I love too is that the music that I get to play and sing, and people will hear me say this in concert, but it's so true that I get to also sing music that helps us remember not just where we've been, but where we're going. And that is what
Right.
I love so much about the music, at crazy times like we're in right now with our world. I mean, we'll have, I think that's after, I think there's an election coming up. I've heard something about it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but, we will have a new president,
Hmm.
in the White House, and that will be, that will create even more conversation that's already going on about the good and the bad and the hope and the fear and all of that. And so just to be able to say, hey, this is important. We need to be engaged. We need to be, in this world, but we're in this world, but we're not of it. We are not home yet. This is not our home.
That's right.
So let's be involved with our eye on the real ending of the
Hmm.
story, which is just the
Hmm.
beginning of eternity. And so all those things that we get to sing and remember together and sing about.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the evening with me. It's an evening with
That's
us.
awesome. I
That's
love
that's
it.
the
I
idea of
love it.
that anyway. And really, it's just me with my guitar, with the piano, just taking people on that
Mm-hmm.
journey. I've had big bands and big production, and I love all of that, but this really isn't about that. This is about the songs and the stories and the journey. So that's what I
Right.
love.
Right. I know for me personally, yeah, especially being a lifelong fan of yours and just having grown up with your music my whole life, and being a worship leader and a guitarist myself,
Mm,
one of the things I love about those nights is it's such an intimate feel. The atmosphere is so much more close knit.
yeah, yeah,
You kind of lose that sometimes in the big production concerts,
yeah.
and especially for us guitar nerds. I was even telling my dad, we're able to kind of look a little close and get that close up view of your chord hand and go, okay, is
Right.
that like
Yeah.
a C sharp minor seven in there? Is that like a
Yeah.
D add nine?
Yeah.
Oh,
What is
that's
that?
just a SEC
Yeah.
chord.
That's
That's just a chord he made up. He just
yeah.
made that chord up.
I
Yeah,
did. Yeah.
that's just
Most of them are,
most
yeah.
of that's just
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
SEC
It's an
chord. We're not even going to try and figure that one out.
yeah.
All right, so I know you and Carl covered a lot of ground talking about ministry leaders kind of as a whole. So let's just kind of zero in real quick on the worship leaders
Yeah.
specifically. So we serve a lot of worship leaders, so I just kind of want to like maybe punch in a little encouragement for them real quick. How would you say you sort of like, because I've been to enough of your concerts over the years where I know, and you even released a worship album back in
Yeah.
2016, I believe it was,
Yes.
Worship and Believe.
Yes.
You've collaborated with a lot of worship guys over the years, Tomlin, Redmond, those guys. And you have moments of worship leadership in your concerts, even though
Yeah.
they're concerts,
Right.
you have those moments where you're drawing us to the cross and that kind of thing. How would you say for worship leaders we can kind of remove ourselves from the limelight and the spotlight sometimes? Shift the audience and the congregation away from the performance and what we're trying to do, and put our
Yeah.
attention on Jesus.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure anything I would say about that would be repeating, what has been said so many times by so many
Sure.
who have way more, probably authority even to speak into that. But the things that have always impressed me in my opportunities as a worship leader, and it's really interesting. I have, my journey, and I don't have time to talk about it and get all into it, but I'll tell this quick story. Years ago, my uh, record label, when worship music, really, you think of like the earliest Martin Smith, Delirious, I Could Sing of Your Love Forever. I mean, when these things started to happen, and really worship music, corporate worship, and that started to happen in a way that nobody had ever experienced. and we were moving
Mm-hmm.
away from just singing, looking down at a hymnal, which is what I grew up doing, to looking up at the screen and singing a song that we didn't know, but learning it and it becoming part of the DNA. When all that started to happen and the artists started making worship albums, I remember even my record label saying, "Hey, would you make a worship? We think you should do a worship album. That's really, people are really responding to that." And and I knew what they meant. Go sing the songs. You do your version of "I Could Sing of Your Love Forever" and "Open the Eyes of My Heart" and these great songs. And
Mm-hmm.
and I remember I went and I was like, let me think, pray about it. I mean, because I'm a storyteller by nature of the songs that I write. I
Right.
love those songs, and yet I don't know if I'm the guy, most qualified, or that I'm the guy to write those. I don't want to force
Mm-hmm.
something or try to become something. So let me go pray about that and see what comes out. So I start, doing that. I come back to my record label and uh, I bring a bunch of new songs and I'm like, "Hey, I got it. Here's what I think I'm supposed to do." So I have this album and it's called All About Love. And I started playing these love songs that I'd written to my
Oh,
wife about our
okay.
marriage and our journey and the hard and the
Mm-hmm.
good. And I mean, our marriage has been, every counselor we could possibly find to help us hold this thing on the rails. We're a mess. We're broken. We're trying to do this thing well. And I'm like, this is like, so, ultimately God says, love me and love each other. So I think this is a worship album because if we're really loving well the people God's put in our lives, that's like a great act of worship, right? My
Right.
record guy looks at me like, "You missed the point totally. We're wanting you to sing 'Open the Eyes of My Heart,' and you're singing, I'm looking into your eyes and trying to
That's
love you
awesome.
better." And it was funny because I just realized then I'm probably always going to be frustrating my record label. And eventually, like you said, I did write the Worship and Believe album, and so much of that came out of our loss of our daughter Maria and just how
Mm-hmm.
important psalms and laments and those kinds of songs of just declaring to my own heart, this is, hope in God, remember this, remember these
Sure.
things, sing it and say it because you need to hear yourself. And so I think the things that have helped me in that way that have seemed to be most true with me, that I would say to worship leaders, who I would say to you, you are so desperately needed as never before,
Mm-hmm.
what you do. Um, and because of that, you know, no pressure, but what you do has never, you've never needed more to stay close to Jesus, because, it's never been crazier times, more voices, more distractions, more things to
Absolutely.
pull us away, more division, more, arguments over everything. And
Right.
so those who would stand up and in the middle of all of that and say, can we just fix our eyes on Jesus
Mm-hmm.
and the cross? And can we just, I mean, Nebuchadnezzar says, "I lifted my eyes to the heaven and my sanity returned." We are crazy. This world is crazy. It is crazy what's going on. How are we going to how are we going to have any sanity in this crazy time between social media and all the things that we're being told? Who knows what truth even is anymore, because
That's
you're
right.
told this is the truth. This is what, no, it's not that. It's this. Oh, it's that. It's that. It's going to be when we lift our eyes to the heavens, when we look to the God who, is in the heavens and on earth, reigning, ruling, in control, running the show, on the
Right.
throne, not biting his nails, not saying, not freaking out. And we lift our eyes and look to him. So what we can do as worship leaders, and and pointing people, that has never been more needed. And I really
That's
think,
right.
as simple as this cliche is, it still holds true throughout. And that is, the very best worship leaders are going to be those who are just the lead worshipers, those whose lives
That's
and
right.
hearts are just filled
Amen.
with a an an awareness of their desperate need for the sovereignty of God to be at
Mm-hmm.
work, their own need of their own awareness of their own brokenness, their own sin, their own need for a savior. And the more and
Mm-hmm.
more we can just keep being reminded of that, you know, the more we're going to be great worship leaders, I think, because we're just going to be coming from
Amen.
a place of, I am, desperate for God, and He is everything I need. And Jesus, you know, death and resurrection is not as my pastor says, not a game changer. It's an everything changer. It changes
That's
everything.
right. Yep.
And
Victory.
we just keep remembering that, man, we're gonna be impactful
For
as
sure. For
worship
sure.
leaders. So
I love it. I love it. So, your acoustic Christmas tour is going to be kicking off in December. So, I want to ask you one quick question about
yeah,
that. Um, a lot of just having been to that concert myself a few times. So, one of the things we do here at Church Visuals is produce a lot of like the motion backgrounds and the video elements and things like that. And so, how would you say for that particular night? I know some of the like Christmas ambiance and energy is
mm,
kind of created by you guys being able to have that,
yeah,
the snowflake motion backgrounds and the fireplaces and that kind of thing. Do
yeah,
you feel like those visuals enhance that night for your
yeah.
congregation and your audience? It kind of adds to the vibe.
We have become such a visual, society and culture. And I mean, everything
Hmm.
has every that we're looking at our phones, it's, background, the apps, creating, the filters and all that. I mean, it is the reality that we're so visual, um, and distracted, and anything that helps, I mean, that's the challenge again, being, sometimes one guy with a guitar, and a storyteller. The power of story, I still believe in it, and still
Oh
love
yeah,
it. But we are so distracted in so many ways that I think it's what is great when it's done well. It
that's
is
right.
so impactful, to, be in a church service that utilizes those things again, all as a way to kind of help silence all the noise going on out here,
Mm-hmm.
and focus this. It's for me, it's
Bring it in.
always, it all goes back to one of my favorite hymns: turn your eyes upon Jesus, look full in
That's right.
His wonderful face, and the light, and the things of this world will go strangely dim in the light of His glory and grace. And I think we can do that. We do that with visuals. We do
Mm-hmm.
that with anything that helps sort of focus us in to the story, to really hear the story again of the gospel. God loves you, and God pursues us, and has, and gave us Jesus, and took our unrighteousness and gave us His righteousness. I mean, that story. So I think we do that. Yeah, visuals, things that help us, kind of, the things of the world can grow strangely dim. Whatever helps
Oh
make
yeah,
those
sure.
things get quiet and grow dim, so that this becomes more bright, and we're more able to focus, and see it, and be drawn in to what is
That's excellent.
true.
Yep, and I know just from having been to that concert myself a couple of times. Yeah, your production team does such a great job with that. They really do. They really do.
Thank you.
So let me give you a quick. You got time for a lightning round? Can you give me one word answers?
Yep, yep.
One word. All right, let's just go through a list. This is a bullet point list. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Favorite book besides the Bible?
Ah, man. Okay. Let's go with Loving God, Chuck Colson.
Boom. Instrument that you don't currently play that you would love to learn to play if you had the time.
Uh, Harmonica. Like,
Yes.
like, be good at it. I can play it, but I can't play it. No, like, really play it.
Favorite guitar in your personal collection?
Um, Collings, probably my Collings D2, which is a
Mm.
dreadnought, big, sounds like an old
Oh yeah.
Martin.
Yep. Good choice. Good choice. Favorite or most preferred guitar tuning during a live performance?
Oh, well, I call it Dad flat. It's Dad Gad, Dadgad,
Yep.
but it's half step down, so we call it Dad flat. So I'm like, okay, tune this one
There
up
you
for
go.
Dad flat.
Local restaurant that you would recommend in Paducah, Kentucky if I was visiting for the first time?
Oh, Starnes Barbecue.
Ooh, that sounds really good.
It's good stuff.
When Kentucky plays Alabama in college football, who do you root for?
Oh gosh. Alabama, roll tide all day long. My daughter's a cheerleader at Alabama, so I gotta stay. I gotta go with my roll tide.
Oh, that's awesome. Most audience requested song at your concerts over the years.
That's a tough one, but I would probably say "I Will Be Here." Somewhere
Oh,
between "I
wow.
Will Be Here," "Great Adventure," and "Cinderella." But "I Will Be Here,"
Oh,
so
yeah.
many people have had that in their weddings, and over the years,
Hmm.
that's a
Sure. All right. Three more. Favorite SCC song to play on the guitar?
Lord of the Dance.
Oh, yes. My favorite. Absolute favorite of all time, by the way. Favorite SCC song to play on the piano?
Um, Probably "When You Are a Soldier."
Oh, nice. Very good one. Funnest music video that you've ever made over the years?
Oh man, the Great Adventure for sure. Got to. Well, I
Oh,
don't really horses scare me, but I rode them in the Great Adventure, and but I got to ride a really old vintage Harley. That was actually my favorite moment. But that was a cool. That was my
oh,
first music video, and that was
good
definitely the
memories.
most fun one to make for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. And your favorite worship song from another artist within the last 5 years or so?
Oh boy, last 5 years. Well, no question. Uh, Goodness of God, man, that one is
Oh,
just whoo.
such a
All
great
my
one. We
life
sang
you
that
have
one on
been
Sunday.
faithful.
Wow,
Oh boy, that's yeah,
it's a good one.
doesn't get any better.
Oh, that's a good one. All right. Well, just to wrap out, you already gave me one, but before I let you go, I need one really good one. Since I work from the Gulf Coast of Alabama, I have to get a really good Steven Curtis Chapman roll tide. A really good one. Give me your best one.
Roll Tide, baby.
Oh, there you go. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Oh,
All right, guys. Steven Curtis Chapman. All tour information is there at stevencurtischapman.com. Dates, cities, schedule, ticket links. stevencurtischapman.com.